from reporters at the end. Please remember to keep yourself muted when you're not speaking. Today, I'm proud to make an important announcement. The Maryland Office of the Public Defender, the Talbot County branch of the NAACP, Public Defender Keisha Peticolas, and community activist Richard M. Potter have joined with the ACLU of Maryland and the Washington, D.C. law firm Crowell and Mooring, LLP, to file a lawsuit in federal district court in Baltimore, challenging as racist and illegal Talbot County's placement and retention of a Confederate monument on the grounds of the county courthouse in Easton, the last on public land in the state of Maryland. Let me be clear, the final vestige of the traitorous Confederacy has got to go. This Confederate monument has got to go. At long last, Maryland is finally moving away from symbols like this, including discarding the Maryland state song, an outdated homage to white supremacy. The Talbot Confederate statue stands on the same spot where a slave auction block once stood, not far from the local hanging tree where Black people were lynched. Like most Confederate monuments, such symbols were erected to put fear into formerly enslaved people. This monument was built 50 years after the Civil War. And these sorts of symbols were erected to put fear into formerly enslaved people. And now it is beyond time for this racist symbol of violence and oppression to be removed. Now you'll hear from important voices addressing why this Confederate statue must be removed. I'll introduce the speakers so you have their names and their titles, and then we'll begin. First speaking will be Richard Potter, who is president of the Talbot County branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Second will be Keisha Peticolas, an assistant public defender in Talbot County for the Maryland Office of the Public Defender. Our third speaker will be Denise Lombard, a member of the leadership team of the Move the Monument Coalition in Talbot County. And our last speaker, Kelly Hibbert, who is counsel with Crowell and Mooring, LLP, and a resident of Talbot County. Following their remarks, we will take questions from reporters. I'll now turn it to Richard Potter, president of the Talbot County branch of the NAACP. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Dana, and good morning. Today marks a significant turning point in the fate of the Confederate monument known as the Talbot Boys that sits on the Circuit Courthouse lawn in Easton, Maryland. The NAACP Talbot County branch has been in the forefront since 2015, when we approached the Talbot County Council about relocating this Confederate monument after the cowardly act of Dylan Roof, who entered the doors of Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, and killed 9 members. In the months ahead, the Talbot County Council had many town halls and listening sessions about the fate of this monument. And as a result, they unanimously voted behind closed doors to retain the Confederate monument. The NAACP, in partnership with the ACLU of Maryland, filed a complaint to the Open Meetings Compliance Board, and on May the 4th, 2016, the Compliance Board produced an opinion that stated, "We have concluded that the council's closed session about whether to remove the statue was subject to the act." And so the council violated the act by meeting to address the question without inviting and admitting the public. Upon the release of the opinion, the council, in a regular scheduled meeting, voted openly and again unanimously to retain the Confederate monument on the courthouse lawn, with the approval for the erection of a Union soldiers monument. The NAACP Talbot County branch, along with allies, continue to advocate for its removal of this monument of hate and injustice, but the council did not entertain it. It wasn't until the Charlottesville, Virginia riots in 2017 that led to the death of Heather Heyer that this Confederate monument was thrusted back into the spotlight once again. The NAACP asked the council again to reconsider relocating this Confederate monument off of the courthouse lawn, and once again, we were ignored. When the world witnessed the murder of George Floyd in 2020, and the consciousness of many whites and a few Black Americans became alive to the injustices and the unequal treatment on Black and brown people, they started to connect symbolisms to hate and oppression. And again, this monument came back to the spotlight once more. And we thought this time around that we had a final chance to remove the monument, given the fact that we had a new council member and a council member who had a change of heart and decided it was time for its removal. The NAACP followed the same process as we did in 2015 for requesting an open meeting with the council to discuss this issue again, and the council denied us the opportunity to meet. The faith leaders of the community asked for an open meeting with the council, and they too were denied. The vote for removal came up again, and it was a 3-2 vote to retain the monument once again. After the vote, the council decided that they would meet with constituents individually to discuss the matter, but would not entertain any motion to meet publicly to discuss this issue. In closing, I want to be clear and precise that the council left us with no other choice but to take this action. We have waited long enough. In the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, we are sick and tired of being sick and tired. The time for removing the Confederate monument known as the Talbot Boys is now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Our next speaker will be Keisha Peticolas, an Assistant Public Defender in Talbot County for the Maryland Office of the Public Defender. Ms. Peticolas.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I have worked my entire legal career in Talbot County, starting in 2006 as a law clerk to the Honorable Judge Sidney S. Campen. From there, I went to the prosecutor's office for about 3 years, and I've spent the last 10 years as an assistant public defender in Talbot County. For all of that time, in order for me to do my job, I had to walk, and I still have to walk by that statue that symbolizes hate and suppression and white supremacy. It is a statue that is right by the main door for the courthouse. And so not only do I have to endure that pain every day, my clients who are walking into the courthouse hoping to be given a fair shot at justice are walking onto a courthouse lawn that still celebrates the Confederacy and all that that means. It is beyond time for this statue to be removed from the courthouse grounds. It should not be on public land. It should not be in a place that is sending the message that you cannot get justice here, because that's exactly what it means. And so I have joined in this lawsuit, not only for myself, but for the clients of the Office of the Public Defender in Talbot County, in order to see change happen so that we all feel like we can get justice when we go into the courthouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peticolas. Our next speaker is Denise Lombard, a member of the leadership team of the Move the Monument Coalition in Talbot County. Ms. Lombard?
Thank you. It's time Talbot County took a stand on the right side of history for all its citizens. As Richard Potter said, this fight has gone on since 2015. The fight for its removal was reignited after the murder of George Floyd nearly a year ago. We were one of many groups of citizens across the country working to eliminate Confederate symbols in our communities. In 2020, 167 Confederate symbols were removed in the US after Floyd's murder. This wave reached from the US Capitol to municipalities like ours, from military bases to corporations, from sports franchises to colleges and universities, and more. The groundswell here in Talbot County for removing this monument was enormous. Through hundreds of letters, hundreds of community members speaking at county council meetings and weekly protests, we called on our county council to vote for its removal. On August 11th, 2020, the county council ignored us and voted 3-2 to leave the statue in place once again. Outraged and disappointed, we came together around a commitment to not rest until the statue was moved. That idea was a lightning rod that drew people into the coalition from all sectors: faith leaders, veterans, activists, elected officials, lawyers, teachers, retirees, students, and youth. We do not want this racist statue to slavery and white supremacy to represent our county. We do not want a statue that glorifies the Confederacy and promotes a fictional and sanitized version of history to represent our county. We want to examine the racial history of enslavement, subjugation, and racial terror in our county in order to heal these wounds. Removing the statue is the first step to that healing and to creating a community where all its citizens are valued equally. The Move the Monument Coalition would like to thank all the plaintiffs appearing today for filing this lawsuit. To our public outrage and moral indignation, it is great to add the charges of unconstitutionality and illegality to the grounds for its removal. On June 19th, we are holding a march and rally in Easton to call on the county council to do the right thing and remove this statue. Though that day, Juneteenth, is a time for celebrating the end of slavery, we will be highlighting the struggle that continues and the unfinished business of bringing about racial justice. For more information, go to our website at movethemonumenttc, as in Talbot County, .org, or our Facebook page, Move Talbot's Confederate Monument. Thank you for this opportunity to share our story and participate in this historic event.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lombard. As a reminder to journalists and reporters, please put your questions in the chat. Now I'll introduce our final speaker, Kelly Hibbert, who is counsel with Crowell & Mooring LLP and a resident of Talbot County. Ms. Hibbert?
Yes, thank you. And thank you to Richard, Keisha, and Denise, and everyone at the Maryland ACLU, the Talbot County Office of Public Defender, and the Talbot County branch of the NAACP for joining us here today, along with all of the reporters on the Zoom call and people tuning in virtually on the live stream. My name is Kelly Hightower Hibbert. I grew up on the Eastern Shore in Eastern Maryland. My grandparents and I lived in Tunis Mills, a small community in an isolated part of Talbot County right next to Unionville, a historical village founded by formerly enslaved soldiers. I recall from my earliest days thoughts and curiosity about why the homes in Unionville were filled with primarily Black faces when the homes in Tunis Mills just down the street were filled primarily with white faces. I didn't know then that Unionville's history, or I didn't know their history, or that just a mile down the road from there, a tree stood where slaves and other Black Americans were hung solely because of the color of their skin. I didn't know that the courthouse I knew as the central place in Easton's historical downtown, a place that everyone coming in and out of downtown businesses there, everyone sees that place, was in the past the grounds of a slave market where Black people, oftentimes stolen from their homes, were sold to white property owners in Talbot County. I didn't know then that slaves and other Black people were lynched on those same grounds. I also didn't know that the 13-foot statue standing on the same grounds was erected in 1916 in the midst of the Jim Crow era, an era post-Civil War, but pre-Civil Rights Act, when Black Americans were subjected to continued discrimination, violence, and segregation. Or that the soldier standing high on the statue carried a Confederate battle flag, and that the statue stood to honor Confederate soldiers, traitors, who fought against the Union in the Civil War and lost their lives along with their cause. But honoring those soldiers is only a front. That statue was really erected to stand in defiance of the Union, of Black Americans who were freed from slavery, despite the desires of many families in Talbot County. It was meant to intimidate Black Americans as they crossed its path to enter the courthouse, prominently located in the center of town, and to remind them that despite winning the war, they were still not equal to the white Americans in Talbot County, and that they would not not be treated as equals in the town or in the courthouse where justice was supposed to be served. That is the history of the statue. So when people say they don't want it removed because it's erasing history, I ask, what history are you really worried about erasing? Because that statue, especially in the location that it's in, stands for much more than honor of the men that fought for the Confederate. It stands for continued demeaning, discriminatory actions, and unequal treatment of our Black citizens. And that, my friends, is not worth honoring at all. Today, we have filed a lawsuit in the United States District Court for the District of Maryland, identifying 9 counts, both federal, state constitutional violations, as well as common law counts against Talbot County, all related to its continued defiance in light of the community action, the community cause to remove the Confederate statue known as the Talbot Boys. I'm proud to be a part of the team working on this. I'm proud of my law firm, Crowell & Mooring, for its role in assisting the Maryland ACLU in bringing this lawsuit to enforce the rights of Talbot County's Black citizens and those affected by this discriminatory statute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and everyone who has spoken today. I'm Meredith Curtis-Good, the Communications Director for the ACLU. I have just put a link to the press release in the chat for any reporters who need that. There's also a downloadable copy of the legal complaint that was filed today that can be accessed there. And now we'll take questions. Our first question is, and I want to see, is Richard still on the line? I think he might have had to drop off. So I understand that the council voted against removing the statue in August 2020. What is the reason for you all uniting today to talk about the shared effort to lobby for its removal? And what are the next steps? And I'll just say, so the initial step is the filing of the lawsuit today. Does anyone want to speak to why you all have come together to do this and what the next steps are?
I can speak to that. So I feel like there's multiple prongs of moving forward to get this statue removed. One is this lawsuit, which is a huge, big deal for us as the Move the Monument Coalition. And the legal prong is just so important because it draws out the unconstitutionality, the 14th Amendment violation of equal justice under the law. And we are having a protest. We're trying to mobilize from the Western Shore and bring press coverage to this issue. There already has been national press coverage as well as statewide and local, quite a bit actually. And this is just a representative struggle. It's, one struggle among many. And we do have plans after the march and rally to take further action to get the monument removed, which will be revealed after the march and rally.
Thank you, Denise. Does anyone else want to speak to that?
Yes, I will. This is Keisha Peticolis. I would just say that history has shown us that we are stronger together than we are separated. And so we formed this group to tackle this issue. The NAACP has tried it on its own. I have tried to come up with ways to do it from a legal standpoint as a criminal defense attorney. The ACLU has been looking at this for a very long time. And so now that we're all together, I think we'll have a strong enough coalition to be able to actually accomplish removing this hateful statue.
Thank you, Keisha. Our next question is for Kelly Hibbert. Is there a precedent for this lawsuit? Has the ACLU elsewhere in the country sued a jurisdiction for something like this?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, there is precedent for this type of lawsuit. There have been similar lawsuits filed across the country in various similarities, but they're outlined in the complaint that was filed today. Some of those were successful in getting the Confederate emblems on flags, on license plates, and the like removed. Closely, most similarly related, and just recently, a Fairfax County, Virginia judge just ruled that a Black defendant could not receive a fair trial in a courtroom decorated overwhelmingly with portraits of white judges, and had those portraits removed. Another Virginia Circuit Court judge also recently reversed his own previous order, ordering the removal of the portrait of Robert E. Lee in a Virginia courtroom because it, quote unquote, may impair the fair administration of justice. Here we're faced with the exact same consequences, with the statute here being right in front of the county courthouse, steps away from the door where our Black citizens have to walk through to conduct their business in the courthouse, which ranges from obtaining marriage licenses. The county council sits within the courthouse, so if they have business with the county council or want to raise issues with the county council, they have to pass this statute. Or if they are a defendant or plaintiff in a lawsuit or a criminal action, all of those folks have to pass right by the statute. So even more so than an individual courtroom, this statute impacts every person walking through the door of the courtroom and, the courthouse in Talbot County.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, where are the talks now with Talbot County Council? Are there any on board or have spoken out about the issue, about the lawsuit? And then there's a second part of the question. Is there been any consideration of where the statute would go if it was removed? But let's deal with the first one. Where do things stand with the county council? It's a 3-2 vote the last time, correct?
That's correct, Meredith. It was a 3-2 vote. And the council is willing to meet with people individually to discuss it, but they're not wanting to meet as a full council to have the meeting open so that the public can see how to partake in the discussion. So essentially, they're stalling to even bring the issue back up at this particular point to vote on it.
And is there any consideration of where the statue would go if it were removed?
I'll let Denise talk about the efforts that the Move the Monument Coalition did with that, but there have been no solidified places as of today. Denise?
So we have investigated this, as have some council members. We've reached out to historical associations and multiple cemeteries. No one wants this monument. This monument is very large, and they don't want the costs associated with it. And this is very common across the country. These monuments often end up in storage. And, we are calling for the removal of the monument and not for its, destruction. So a museum where it's put into context might be a good place, but so far we don't have any takers. We've tried to accommodate people's wishes in the county to find an appropriate place for it, but we have not been able to, nor have any of the council members. So we feel that putting it in storage is a good solution for the interim.
And I'd like to speak briefly to the previous question, if you don't mind. The lawsuit was just filed. Obviously, we've stated that a couple of times. So we haven't had any conversations yet with Talbot County or the individual council members about the lawsuit, but our doors remain open. Like Mr. Potter said earlier, this is where we are right now because of the continued reluctance to have these conversations, but we are available. We're more than willing to discuss a resolution to the issue. We don't need to expend resources continuing down the road with a lawsuit if we can come to a resolution outside of court, and we're more than willing to discuss it.
Thank you so much. Are there any further questions? And I'll note that the legal complaint will be posted to the press release page that I shared. I'll share it again very soon this afternoon. So you can find it there, or you can reach out to me. I'll put an email address in the chat where you can reach out to me to get a copy of the legal complaint directly. Are there any further questions? Dana, would you like to close us out?
Thank you, Meredith. I'd like to thank our speakers for participating and for the work that you're doing in Talbot County to make sure that the humanity and, pardon me, that the humanity, lives, and livelihood of Black Americans, Black Marylanders, and those who believe in racial justice and freedom for all are lifted up. I'd also like, in closing, to acknowledge my colleague, Debbie Gian, our legal director, who has been working on this issue for a number of years and led the way for much of what we are able to announce and talk about today. So thank you all so much. Please contact Meredith through the information in the chat if you have questions moving forward. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.